What exactly did the president have to say?
Yeah, the president of the United States, he was talking to reporters just after a cabinet meeting, and he was asked whether the deadline for a trade dispute to be resolved between the U.S. and China was a hard one for March 1st, which is the date that we expect more tariffs to be levied against China that the U.S. has already announced. And he said that it's not a hard deadline. He is willing to fudge it a little bit if it looks like they are getting very, very close to a deal, which is brand new information. So far, it looked like no matter what, on March 1st, on March 2nd at midnight, there will be an extra hammer that goes down against China. And it looks like the economy over there is slowing enough that Chinese officials were going more and more concerned about the next round of tariffs. And now it just looks like he is really hoping for a deal and willing to make some concessions in order to get that deal.
There are still no plans, though, for the presidents to meet. So how close are they really to a potential deal?
You know, they can always pick up the phone, the two leaders, and call each other and talk out the details. But the problem is that the policymaking process so far, from what we can see, has not been a traditional one. There is no documentation, draft agreements going back and forth. There's no paperwork that we have heard about to show that they have concrete proposals where one side is willing to make concessions yet. And at the same time, we have Donald Trump, who is hoping that investors will continue to invest in the U.S., buoy stock prices, and he's also having to contend with heading into an election cycle. He is hoping to get reelected. Democratic candidates are raising their hand one by one to run against him, and he wants to make sure that rural America, that elected this president and brought him to Washington, votes for him again. And at the same time, farmers in the Midwest are seeing bankruptcies rise, in large part due to the trade tariffs with China.
This is the second conciliatory note, you could say, that we've seen from the president in the last week, the other one being on a potential deal to avoid another government shutdown. Why do you think the president seems to be in the mood to compromise?
I think that he's heading into a period where this is 100% a Trump economy. We are going to start seeing the data from the IRS about how the tax cuts are really panning out for the average American voter. He is also hearing what the other side, Democratic candidates, would like to do with their own economic agenda should they be elected. He is just trying to show the world that he has boosted the U.S. economic growth and that he can keep it going. At the same time, he is having to contend with warnings of recessionary fears, either coming from a slowdown in Europe, in China, or from Brexit. And so he's just trying to prove that his economic agenda, which in large part has to do with trade, is working.